Harry Truman came into one of the most difficult assignments any president's ever faced. He succeeded Franklin Roosevelt when he died on April 12, 1945. The war in Europe was just ending. How would the United States and the Soviet Union get along? How would the peace be maintained? But beyond that, he also had the war in the Pacific, the battle against Japan, which was far from over. All of this was in front of him, not to mention the tremendous decision of whether to use the atomic bomb.
One of the real turning points in this new exhibit is the moment, of course, that Truman becomes president, that FDR dies. The visitor literally turns a corner, and there's a gallery that speaks to the first 4 months of Truman's presidency. And along that wall, there's video that plays month by month of all the things going on in the world, and it's an incredible amount of history.
In many ways, the bomb was a fait accompli when it reached Harry Truman, but he had not been told about it until the generals came to talk to him shortly after he became president. And they revealed that they were very close to producing a bomb that had the potential not only to end the war, but potentially to end human civilization. This was the first time that Truman really understood what he was going to be up against and how important this weapon was going to be to the world that he was going to have to create.
One of the really interesting things about this new gallery is how we've decided to handle the dropping of the bombs. I think one of the greatest artifacts we have, one of the most emotive artifacts we have, is the safety plug that was in the bomb that went off over Nagasaki. It is paired with this paper crane. It's definitely the spotlight. It's the focal point of the whole gallery. And yet what's interesting about that moment is you turn yet again as a visitor and you face a new room where Truman's legacy really plays out, and that is a fractured globe and a world that he now has to put back together. And that is really what Harry Truman will come to be known for.
You can't walk away from it without a sense of the gravity, the enormity, and the courage that Harry Truman and Harry Truman's America showed in leading the world through that nightmare and out of that nightmare. Harry Truman was a huge student of history. He was a natural-born leader. He was profoundly, scrupulously honest. But most of all, he had great judgment. And then the final point was that Harry Truman understood that the president has to decide. Rebuilding, reimagining, and recreating of the museum that tells the story of Harry Truman's life is one of the most important events in the history of his presidential library. For the first time, visitors are going to be able to walk in and learn his life story from start to finish in an organized, modern, up-to-date, interactive way that will speak to kids and to adults, to people who don't know much about Harry Truman. This is the museum for the next generation of Americans who maybe know his name but don't know his story. And we're going to bring that story to them in a compelling and lasting way.
One of the things that's so remarkable about this institution, about the Truman Library, is that it very much carries out the vision that Harry Truman had in mind to be a center of education, and particularly for young people. As we wrap up this project, we're in the final push, the final phase of the campaign. We know this is an incredibly generous community. We have a great support base, and we're so grateful for every contribution that has been made. But in order for us to complete this at the level we need to, that we know needs to be done, to tell this story in the way it needs to be told, we need some final contributions to get us across that line.